Good morning, guys. Welcome to today's episode of Happiness After Codependency. I'm Marshall Berkshire, and I'm your guide back to those outcomes of freedom, of love, of romance, of connection, of engaging in life in a way that matters to you, your own well-being, your own happiness. And that comes from knowing, loving, and being who you are. So that's what we're all about here with the Happiness After Codependency system. So I'm excited to have you guys here today. Today's topic, we are jumping into a more advanced or more advanced concept of our journey outside of codependency. And it starts with the topic of, are you muting your joy? So we're going to jump into that here in just a moment. Before we get to that, I'm going to share this out to the community. The community is where you can find additional tools, guidance, and support from me and fellow badasses, what I typically call y'all, fellow journeyers in this discovery process of coming back to ourselves. The link is above on Facebook. It's below on YouTube. Check out the rules link there as well to make sure that the community is a safe fit for you, and then come join us. So I'm going to find the video. It should be working. Yes, it is. It's just Facebook moving things around. Let me know how you guys are doing in the comments below. And let me know your thoughts on today's video when we wrap up here. So, okay. So, are you muting your joy? This might sound like it's a little outside the zone of codependency and of being of healing work and stuff, but it's actually quite in that arena. I'm going to show you why here. So first of all, some background, some signals about joy and how we mute it. So some questions for you to start off with. So were you shamed? Were you put down when you were happy about something that showed up in your life? Were you told to be humble, not to get too excited, or not to brag about things that were going on in your world that you were excited about, that you felt joy about, that mattered to you? Were you laughed at for what did bring you joy? The type of music you like, the interests you have, the things you did for play and creativity in your world? Were the things that brought you delight shamed, criticized, or put down? Because if you're answering yes to these questions, you have experienced what I call joy shaming. Joy shaming is when another individual takes an attack against a person's joy, their expression of their own delight, their own pleasure, their own excitement about what's going on in their world. This happens a lot in toxic and deficient systems, whether it's culture, whether it's religious, whether it's political, whether it's familial. What's happening here is the individuals that shame, criticize, and put down others for their joy are experiencing a deep sense of insecurity in their own joy, a deep, maybe even some jealousy, or a need to be the center of attention because, the spotlight's on them, I need it back on me. Yeah, people with narcissistic tendencies tend to want to pull that spotlight towards themselves, so they're going to put down, shame, criticize that joy, and sometimes they'll even co-opt it and use it to their own benefit. Hey, look at that person, look at my child's joy, I created that for them. So again, that spotlight is taken onto them, and then the other individual is robbed of having that validation, of having that experience of their joy being their own sovereign thing. When we're going through this kind of experience of having our joy shamed, criticized, put down, or diminished, we tend to internalize this as a sense of being wrong. There is a wrongness about our joy. There's a wrongness about our happiness. There's a wrongness about what brings us joy and happiness. There's a wrongness about how we do it. So we start to feel and believe that we are intrinsically flawed in some way because this thing brings me happiness. We also internalize this by contrasting ourselves against others. Well, that makes them happy, but it doesn't make me happy. What's wrong with me? Especially if we're coming from people-pleasing angles in our codependency, that's going to be a factor we do. I should like that because they like it too. And sometimes we even try to manufacture joy in happiness or excitement about someone else's thing in order to feel like we're pleasing them, to feel like we belong, to feel like we have a connection, we have some safety, we have some value or identity there. So those three necessities come up again with safety, connection, and identity. We're doing that. We're manufacturing. And that leads to burnout. It leads to feeling really lost and disconnected from our own sense of joy, our own sense of play, our own sense of pleasure. If we're to heal, we have to come back into contact with this in our world and what it is for us individually. So some signals about what joy might feel like for you. Your body is engaged and enlivened. It's energized by the experience that you're doing, you're pursuing, by the idea of having, being, or doing that thing. Like this morning, I was out there. I do what I call my old man walks. I take this 2.5 mile loop in my neighborhood. And I was thinking about some accomplishments I want to do for my business, for my personal life. One of them is to live in San Diego. That's one of my dreams. I want to get connected there. I want to own a home by the beach, be able to look out on the ocean. It just brings me so much joy. It makes me tear up a bit. And I found myself muting myself, pushing down that joy, kind of disconnecting it, trying to, oh, nope, can't show that. Can't share that. That's bad. Look at you wanting something so big. Who do you think you are? So it's this inner critic starts kicking into gear there. Note about the inner critic. Inner critics aren't bad things. Inner critics are undeveloped aspects of ourselves that are trying to protect ourselves by using force to do that. So I don't shame the inner critic. I'm a big fan of going, I see you're trying to care for me here. Could you say that in a different way to me? And then they usually do. They usually find their own words there. So this internalization, this pressure of shutting it down, muting, or short-circuiting our joy is something we have learned to do in order to feel like we belong, in order to feel like we're not rocking the boat. We're not going to get shamed. We're not going to get put down. We're not going to be discarded because of what we want or what we've accomplished. We're not going to be accused of being a braggart. We're not going to be accused of being a narcissist. We're not going to be accused of being something. We're not going to have our character impugned by someone else's accusations. We want to feel safe. We want to feel connected, and we want to feel like we have some value and identity in our experience. If we're coming from codependency, we're going to shut down our joy because that tends to rock the boat, right? But coming back into our sovereignty, into our well-being and our happiness, part of that journey of healing codependency is emerging into that joy, connecting back to its sovereignty, its safety, its rightness. The rightness of your joy, the rightness of what you desire. This is a leap. Now take a moment, check in with yourself. Check in with what your body is doing in response to this. What's there for you? Because sometimes it can be openness, sometimes it can be anxiety, sometimes it can feel overwhelming, pressure, disbelief, doubt, shame. All of that's okay. The reactions that arise in your body are expressing the dominant experiences you've had in relationship to this topic. They're not signals that there's something wrong. They tell the story of what you've been through and what you've experienced in relationship to your own well-being, to your own happiness, to what matters to you in your world. So check in with yourself. See where you're at there. And then make note of that, because that's a place that deserves love, and it deserves care, deserves respect. So some other things that might be signals that you're muting your joy. You keep quiet about what brings you happiness. You don't share it. So a few days ago, I shared on my Facebook wall how I had finally I found a copy of a particular computer game that I've been looking for a very long time, a particular version of it, and I'd finally got it. I finally won a bid on eBay and got it. That's a big deal to me because I love collecting these things. This particular game meant quite a bit to me in the past, And so to have the particular edition I have really meant a lot to me. That was exciting. So I put it on Facebook as a test of exercising a little more joy in my world. And I got to see how people actually celebrated it. They were excited about it too. They could connect with it. They related to it. They even gave ideas and connected other resources about more of those things. That's what this is about. When we're going for connection in our world, to be seen and valued for who we are, joy is going to be one of those areas that really magnify this, that really bring us together to create connection and community. So it's not just, we're going through hard things and having empathy community there. It's also, wow, look what I'm experiencing. What am I discovering here? And celebrating that. That's something I frequently do with my students and my community. Every Friday we have the Celebration of You post where you get to brag about what you've accomplished, what you've discovered, what's going on in your world. We get to celebrate you. Part of our work in the Happiness After Codependency system and in my solo courses is praising and appreciating what you discover, what you do, what your efforts are, and what you enjoy, so that we can reconnect with this and use joy as a means of part of our healing, part of our expansion into who we are, and to be really connected with ourself. I mean, if we're looking to have those outcomes of, health, safe, romantic love, sustainable, fun, fulfilling friendships, to have more success or wealth in our world, to accomplish things that really matter to us, we have to come to that connection with joy, because those are part of that. Joy is part of that equation into our discovery there. So cultivating joy can be very scary at first, because our past experience has been very volatile with our own excitement, our own desires, our own fulfillment. We've also may have experienced the idea, or not experienced the idea, but the reality of, I get something I've really wanted and then it's taken away. I get something that I want and someone else damages or destroys it. This can be traumatic. It can really affect the nervous system. It can put us into a free state with receiving what matters to us, because we are in deep pain and fear of losing it. This is a place for grief. This is a place for kindness with ourselves. So a lot of healing in our codependent dynamics involves that practice of grieving in our own privacy of our own being, per se, as Shanti Zimmerman would say, but also grieving in our community, being grieved with in what we have lost, what we won't have, and allowing ourselves to let that be honored and valued the way it is, because that matters. So if you've had trauma around receiving and losing things, or never being able to actually accomplish it, feeling like you never actually get there, this is valid, this is real, it's not something that has to be fixed. Instead, it's something that needs to be acknowledged, and it needs to be legitimized and cared for through grief and through connection with healthy, safe community and persons in your life. So that would be step one. Acknowledging what your relationship is to joy, grieving what is there if there are things to be grieved. I linked in the description above on Facebook and below on YouTube a link to one of my primary tools called the ALI practice that can assist in that, guide you in that. So we acknowledge that. And it's also the same tool we can use to build tolerance for joy, because we might have a really small bucket for joy right now. It may be too uncomfortable, it may be too intense, it may be just frankly unbelievable, we don't trust it, that kind of thing. That's okay too. I've been there numerous times myself. This is okay to acknowledge and to have. Like, okay, that's where I'm at with my joy. We can use the ALI practice to help nurture access to it. So it's kind of a observe and titrate access kind of dance. So ALI stands for acknowledge, legitimize, and integrate. Acknowledge means this is real, this is here, this is now. I am recognizing it and letting it be here. Legitimize means to make it real and valid to yourself, to you, not to someone else. This gets us out of this thing we do in codependency called external orientation, where someone else's perspective determines our reality rather than we determine our reality. And I stands for integration. When I take these, integration is really about letting the shift that begins to occur when we acknowledge and legitimize something become our new normal. So these 3 steps can help you gently, slowly, deeply shift into more availability for your joy, as well as navigate the grief, the anger, the sadness, whatever might be there in your journey with joy. So a very powerful framework there. Another tip in cultivating joy is to give yourself permission to feel 10% more joy just for a moment, just to see what that feels like. Do that for 30 seconds to 30 seconds. You'll start titrating your experience there, and it'll build capacity because it'll feel safer to acknowledge and feel that sensation. A third option would be to share your joy with a person or group that you feel safe sharing it with. Let it be seen. This starts to heal the shame and the guilt that we've internalized for having joy and excitement and daring to want something in our world. And then number 4, let your joy take up a bit more space by acknowledging that it's there and observing how it feels in your body. Gets you oriented to the somatic experience of joy, to the felt sense reality of it, and builds capacity and tolerance for it. All right, I'm going to check the comments here. Hey, Melissa, nice to see you. Hi, Fabiana. Fabiana says, indeed, there was no time for entertainment in my family, so just work, so my passion was not embraced or encouraged. Yeah, the world, all the seriousness of the world had to consume our childhood, so we had to survive. And we didn't learn how to play and create and be creative in that space. Shani says, I tend to minimize my joy and success and happiness. It feels like bragging and undeserved when I share good things. Yeah, that's that internalized shaming that we've experienced expressing itself in your body. And I also fear acknowledging happiness because when I do find happiness, something seems to leave my life. Yeah, that is a traumatic experience when it feels like something, I get happy and someone leaves, someone punishes me for being happy, things like that. I experienced that a fair bit growing up myself. These are places for grief. These are places for trauma work, using either somatic experiencing, brain spotting, EMDR, but starting with just a gentle acknowledgement that, ouch, yeah, that's hurt me in my life, and that is real and that is valid. So I'll legitimize it, allow it to take up some space and little bits of time that allow you to gain some capacity there. So there you go, my friends. Let's stop muting that joy. Let's start to share it a little bit more in ways that feel safe, at times that feel safe for you, and begin to experience what it's like to be seen and valued in your joy, because you deserve that. So a bit about the Everything Forever membership that is open for enrollment right now. So I've been asked who this is for and what outcomes this creates. So the Everything for membership, the Everything Forever membership is for students, new or existing students, that want the outcomes of sustainable love, friendships, safety, confidence, and happiness in their daily life without the anxiety and frustration of wondering if you can afford the next course, workshop, or intensive that I offer. So you really like my work is working for you, it resonates with you, and you would like to just jump in deep on that and run with it. That's who the membership is for. The outcomes that other students that have joined the membership, we have 37 people in the membership right now. They report, along with the outcomes they get by doing the work, healthier friendships, relationships, more success, more love, more peace in their life. They also report that they really enjoy the fact that they don't have to spend more money on getting the healing they want, the healing they need. They also get to enjoy this sense of peace and relaxation around doing the work, because it's now like, oh, I've got to just get it done now because, I only have this much money. I've got to make this go farther. It's more like, okay, I don't have to worry about what comes up or what Marshall's going to offer or teach next because I'm part of it. Just run with it. So it brings them a lot of peace that way. So that's what this membership is about, providing is more peace, saving you time, saving you money, and allowing your healing to go deeper, because you don't have that money weight in the background being a little gremlin at you. So we've got 8 spots open. Enrollment for this year closes June 10th, so this Friday. So link is above on Facebook, below on YouTube. Come join us. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for letting me share some of my joy in today's episode. My friends, joy is something we have access to, we deserve to have, and it's not something we have to become worthy for. We are intrinsically worthy of being happy and having joy in our world. So if you want to discover more of that, come join me in my work in discovering, knowing, loving, and being who you are outside of codependency. So I will see you guys in our next episode. Have a good day. Go gently with yourselves. And bye-bye.